Welcome back to the Hardcore series. In the last few episodes, we've done a couple of automated farms already. Today, we're going to continue that streak. We'll start out with the sugarcane farm since we still don't have one to get paper for rockets. Along with the moss farm, 2 tall flower farms, glow lichen hanging roots, and a sea pickle farm that are going right in a greenhouse. For most of these though, we are going to need a lot of bone meal. So add that to the list as well. And of course we can't just leave exposed farms out in the open. So obviously we'll build a new city district around it as well. The area I want for this is right behind me here. But before we can actually start building here, we do need to terraform it up a little bit. With that out of the way, let's get to planning out the builds. As I mentioned before doing the villager square, it's just a nice little market for people to come together, right? Surrounded by a lot of houses. And I'm kind of liking the feel of it, I'm kind of liking the vibe of it. Yeah, I might really like the squares idea. So let's do it. Let's get some wool and get this thing going. Bit of red, bit of yellow, some cyan, and some magenta. And there we go. Perfect. Yeah, those sounds. So this is something I found a bit ago and may have fully forgotten again. There may have been a zombie that's gotten into the villagers upstairs. Luckily I did find them before they spawned though, and I managed to name them. Let me quickly introduce to you Peter, Bob, and Hank. But let's make them a little bit less green, shall we?
A few moments later.
There we go. Perfect. I mean, at least everything is cheap now, that's something. But let's get back to the district layout. This time around I want to break up the square into areas. The current armor house as one short side, and the long side and the far side with houses. On the other long side I want to fill up a wall to separate it from the river. And in the middle of the square I want to put a big double house that is going to function as the main greenhouse. The smaller open part will function as some space for staircases and small stacks of storage with potential gates and openings for going to basements. The bigger part will be the market side with the doorways into the houses and such. With the new district all planned out, it is time to actually start getting something in it. In the last episode I said it is smart to do the farm first, building later, but let's not do smart. I want to start out with a sugarcane farm, and for this I want to use a big corner building to make sure there's plenty of space for the sugarcane. The corner build I have in mind will be within the same style as a villager breeder and a bridge build, so we can tie the city together. Structure wise we're going for a 3-part build. 2 taller structures that are going to be little differing in height, with the third part connecting the two a bit lower. A couple of details later, we got ourselves a new building. I do want to make a small stand in here in front of the house. And what we're going to do is a small trick I've seen a bit of this building before. I'll go for a small barrel action like that. This one in the front. A little bit of dirt over here. Water in the back with a 4th dirt right in front still. Hold all of these up just to make it nice and clean. A couple of those to make sure that the sides don't look that terrible anymore. Like so. And the main trick comes into action right here. With a slanted powered rail. Oh, let's can go again. That back and that back. A flower pot right in front, and let's just do a blue wood and a blue orchid, and then a hopper minecart right there that is being held up by the pots like such. And there's a couple of flowers and some random bits at the front. As you grow up it'll be a nice stand just showcasing the different flowers and the different bits in there. There is still the part of this that we have to turn it into a sugarcane farm. So let's have a look on the inside and see what we can do with it. I think I want to start out with a smooth spruce flooring and ceiling. Add some sidebars here, turn the bottom blocks into waterlogged stairs, some mud and some sugarcane. Barrels and compost in the middle with some pots and greenery, and as a finishing touch, some shelves on the wall for extra storage and a lantern. A little bit of spicing up the flooring and that seems rather nice already. Goes little interior for a bit of a sugarcane farm, but we all know that that's not gonna cut it as a farm, right? So let's get to the real deal. Now just imagine a bit of wrangling with the storage and we're back up to speed. The chests out here are somewhat of the combination of everything though. With the hoppers going a little bit around, all sugarcane ends up in this one, with this one as a backup, and any overflow will end up as bone meal in the barrel in the back. Besides that though, we also did a little bit of interior in the rest of the houses as well. More or less along the same style as the other ones, but at least have something nice in here as well, right? And I think that means that the sugarcane is all done. With the smaller farm done, it is time to get to the main farm area of this episode. And all of the farms in the upcoming area are going to be fueled by bone meal. Because of this, I want to set up a version of the chromoss moss farm. For this, we are going to need two things though. One will be a big old hole in the ground. Hole check. Quick run to the ender to repair the tools. The other thing we're going to need before we can start building this farm is a ton of slime blocks. And sadly, we don't have a slime farm yet. So we'll just have to manually get a couple of blocks in the swamp. Should about do. Oh, that's not something I'm gonna be letting off. That's a lot of turtles. What do we get? Another horn. I'll take it. And after a bit of sidetracking, we're right back at home. Besides the slime, I also gathered up the other resources we need to get this farm going. So let's get to it. Normally the chromoss farm is mostly used to purely produce bone meal. This version however will produce purely moss products while sustaining itself on bone meal. I'll make sure to leave a link to the original chromoss in the description below. We can take the output of this farm and filter out the moss bits that we want. And whatever is left over we can still turn into bone meal. Those leftovers should be plenty since this farm produces literal tons of moss. And with all of that done, I think we can also check off the bone meal and the moss. Next up on the list is a bit of decorating this entire area. And for this, I got another bit of inspiration from beat-ups. Flooring out of mud brick and exposed cut copper, leaving spots of polished andesite for some pillars to support the ceiling. For these pillars I used brick with granite walls that near the ceiling extended into full blocks to create arches to give a sturdy feel. The ceiling in between the arches I filled up with spruce planks before setting up walls for the stairs into the cellar. Last but not least, I switched out some flooring for waterlogged stone brick stairs and lightning rods to make it seem like there's some sort of water supply going around. With the flooring, ceiling and support of the cellar done, you might be wondering, "Whoop, why are there no walls?" Funny you should ask. Inside of the walls I want to put the remaining farms of today's to-do list. Each of these nooks is just the right size for each of the small farms. The way I want to set this up is to have the bone meal output that we have from composting moss go past all the different farms, and at the end of the line have a storage left over for bone meal. This might take a while before it's all filled up and good to go, but I've done it smart and built the moss farm just inside of the spawn chunks. This means that as long as we're in the overworld, bone meal will keep producing. Most of these farms all have the same concept. Pick a lever to start an observer clock and the dispenser will keep shooting bone meal. We put a hopper underneath a piece of mud so we can collect all items that fall, and the farm is complete. The seed pickle farm is a slight bit different though. The one we set up is a variation of XBCrafted farm, but made to fit the cellar. We observe new seed pickles being grown, retract and push the block underneath, breaking the pickles, which end up in the hopper minecart. And that's the farms done. With a quick eye though, we added 3 extra farms to our list. We put a glowberry farm right next to our hanging wood farm, and a small area for some red and brown mushrooms. Something else I added are some bone meal indicators. I rest sunlight at every farm to notify if there's bone meal ready to be used or not. So say we have an empty dispenser, the light turns off, we fill it back up, it turns back on. This does leave us with having to make this place look a little nicer though. But before I take you guys on another hour-long detailing session, let me just quickly snap my fingers. And isn't that just a whole lot better already? I tried decorating each nook somewhat towards what the farm in it produces, trying to keep away from straight rows of chests as much as I could. That along with some general detail of barrels, composters and some leaves, trying to keep the shadows where I could, has resulted in a pretty cool looking greenhouse cellar, I'd say. And with that, I think we can call the greenhouse farms complete. And of course the 3 extra farms added into it as well. With the farms all complete and all the underground business taken care of, I believe it is time to make the cellar an actual basement. Since all this time, this has been nothing more than a spruce flat area on the surface. Before we can start building though, there is one slight issue. We are practically out of deep slate. And since we've done our fair share of deep slate mining already, I figured it was time to get this another way. And with me not fully enjoying TNT duping, there's only one other solution I could think of, which is wither mining. The name is rather self-explanatory, but let me quickly walk you through it. You build a long tunnel, you spawn a wither, you hit the wither will try to get to you, breaking all the deep slate. After a while, you kill the wither, and you get all the rewards. So let's get this a go, shall we? Deep slate chest filled back up, so let's get to building. The build I have in mind for a greenhouse might not be as much of a greenhouse, though more shop-like on the exterior, but with a slight greenhouse feel on the inside. Structure-wise, we're going for a tall double house with tons of windows for extra light. To make it stand out a bit more from the other houses, I did opt to go with a brick bottom floor compared to the normal stone. A bit extra wood heavy in the middle section, split by some diorite walls, and in the roof a proper frame with a deep slate roof and some small windows. And with a couple of small detail bits, we have the greenhouse connected to the fish market. The basement we have on a small slope into a double door, and the staircase up to the armorer or up to the fletcher shop connects us into what's going to be the greenhouse district. And on the inside we have... nothing yet. But I want to transform this area into our non-farm roll greenery storage. So think about leaves, small drip leaf, dead bushes, those kind of things. Interior isn't all that big, so we may have to get a bit creative with fitting it all in. But surely we'll manage, right? To keep the space for the interior as efficiently used as possible, I decided to start out with a place for lily pads. A small corner with a miniature pond in the corner seemed perfectly for that. Some tropical fish, seagrass and some mud in it, with a small shelf for a barrel above it to store the lily pads. Right next to it a corner for mangrove roots and dead bushes. Since both look somewhat like dead plants, I figured they fit together. A simple pile of these with some small storage, and this one was done as well. To bring some more green into the small area, I figured that an open cabinet underneath the walkway for the upper floor would be perfect to contain vines. A nice setup of jungle trapdoors and barrels to make sure this all works out. To rip up the bottom floor, I made one corner for the spore blossom and small drip leaf, with an overhang for azalea leaves. Next to it another closet with some area around for growth for ferns and mangrove leaves. Upstairs I mostly kept for the other leaf types, with small stacks of barrels and chests for each of the smaller areas, while using the bigger area for even more closets filled with barrels and chests. And I don't think I'm overestimating if I were to say that this has got to be one of my most favorite interiors I've built in a while. A beautifully decorated house along with enough storage for all of our decorative blocks.
Nice.
With both the sugarcane building and the greenhouse now complete, all that remains is the last few homes surrounding the square. So let's jump into one more time-lapse for the day and get these built up. Well, that must have been our first time we played the entire song for time-lapse. I hope that wasn't too much building in one go though. But would you just look at all the houses that are in now? Isn't that just looking absolutely amazing? The only thing still lacking would be the smaller detailing though. Some small market stalls, a cart to move some goods, a small tent to cover the cart a little bit, an extra gate next to the cart, a bit more of a solid path through the middle, some piles of crates, can't forget some armor stands for some life, and a couple of grass bits and dead bushes. With the detailing all finished up, this feels completely changed again. But I have to say, this is looking absolutely amazing. With all the little bits and bobs in place now, besides maybe some of the interiors. We'll leave those open in case we ever want to do some more small farms that we need to put somewhere. This does mean that the last goal for today is finished up as well. I think we can be proud of the progress. A new sugarcane farm, an infinite source for bone meal to fuel all the different farms for detailing blocks, an amazing new cellar, and a completely decorated greenhouse, surrounded by an entire new city district to add to the world. And this leaves us with exactly 100 days left until we hit the big 1000 days survived in our hardcore world. What do you think we're still missing? And that still seems like a must-have before that. Let me know in the comments down below. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Until the next one, bye! And it started raining. Great.